Unfortunately, what you're about to hear is real. The members of this radio program are simply not that bright, or what some people would call educated. They are merely stupid. They're not trying to offend anyone on purpose. And all have played doctors on TV. You have been warned and are cordially invited to join the party. This is the men's room.
Forget it, man, and get with the countdown. Get with the countdown. Shake this square world and blast off for Kicksville. The trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
This is the men's room with Miles and Thrill. You know what they say, shake your radio more than 3 times, and you're playing with it. You're listening to the men's room.
And away we go. Welcome to show number 2,832. Along with Steve the Throw Hill, D. Chet Smith, Robin Bugs, and Mike Hawk. And you are in the men's room. On tap today, the exciting return of Who Sucks Less. The word has names parents invented for the kids just last year. Get ready to play Profile This. Plus headlines, the men's room shot of the day, fun with listener emails, and everyone's favorites, TV Time with Tim. All right, here we go. Florida man enraged at Burger King attacks worker over a coupon for a Whopper. Not to be outdone, Florida City sends out fake zombie alert during a power outage as a topper. Ohio woman goes into store to buy lottery tickets, hits the Sour Kush jackpot instead. A judge rules that 30-year-old living with parents must find his own bed. And yeah, the guy who said a rattlesnake fell from a tree and bit him, he was lying. That is all coming on today's very special episode of The Men's Room.
And now, here's the question.
Hola, bichola. Good day to you and yours. All right, listen, this story, it's been around for a long time. We've talked about it at length on this very program, but it remains one of our favorites. Former Major League Baseball pitcher Doc Ellis, he throws a no-hitter on June 12th in 1970. Yes, his pitches seem wild, and yes, he lacked control, as they say. But 14 years after throwing that no-hitter, he admitted in an interview, look, man, I was tripping on acid that day. That's right. He's throwing a damn near perfect game while melting into the world of LSD. Well, he's not alone. Former NFL Super Bowl winning 3-time league MVP quarterback Brett Favre, he recently did an interview with Sports Illustrated. In the interview, Brett admitted that during his best football years, he was either high or drunk or both. In fact, in 1995, that's the first year that he won the MVP award. Yeah, he was floating on a cloud of opiates all the time. He admits this himself. But look, in a way, no one really should be surprised. Think about this. DNA. Think of the fact that we know anything about human DNA has led to all kinds of medical upgrades, we'll say. Well, that was discovered thanks to LSD. The most recognized product in the world, Coca-Cola, directly named for cocaine. The program you're listening to now, The Muppets, many things are the results of lots of drug use or heavy alcohol use or both. But every once in a while, in spite of how you feel, when you are called to action, ladies and gentlemen, you rise to it. No one needs to know that you're bleeding out of your butt because you drank 15 bottles of Jack Daniels. You had to deliver a baby that day, then damn it, that's what you'll do. So here is today's question. Drunk, high, or hungover, what did you get done?
Be part of the big show. Call 844-999-OLA. You can like the Men's Room on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Men's Room Live. And send those emails to the Men's Room at mensroomlive.com. You are listening to the Men's Room Radio Network.
Hola, bitches. You're listening to the Men's Room.
Hello, Michelle, and away we go. Welcome to show number 2,832. What a large and a charged program do we have for you today. The exciting return of Who Sucks Less. Do not hear too much of a buzz as far as the disgusting level of Who Sucks Less this week, so hopefully we're going to catch a little bit of a break in this week's edition of Who Sucks Less.
Some of these people really suck, but again, they are sucky to other people, which we have determined everyone is okay with.
As Steve takes 3 stories that appear in the news, it's up to you to determine which of those 3 stories suck the least. Now, the word has names that parents just this past year have invented for their kids. Now, these words did not exist in the prior year. So if you're wondering, It's well over 1,000 invented names, and to be not only an invented name, this name has to be given to more than 8 individual children. You have to keep that in mind.
No.
So when we say there are 1,000 and some new names, that means that there are also 8 or above that have that name for it to appear. A lot of the times, it's just a change in spelling. A lot of the times, it has to do with what is popular. Social media
changing spelling is one of the worst. Like, look, if you just give them one of these really stupid names that you made up, like, they have to live with it, but at least one thing will be true. If you say, hey, man, well, what's your name? My name is Poopstain Aramia.
Yep.
All right, look, it's a dumb name. You made it up, but they will be asked to spell that name. When you just change the spelling of a name that everyone understands, like, everything they do gets effed up basically through their life. You know what I mean?
For an example, the biggest new name, and I'll give you this one, is Camry. Now, traditionally, the name Camry has existed in the Toyota spelling of Camry.
Right.
Camry. That's been around for a while, with 113 baby Camrys born in 1997. So that's been there for a long time. However,
they're still running.
The new Camry, they probably are.
Both
They
the
probably
kid
have
and the
200,
car.
300. Well,
Right.
very reliable. Very reliable.
Strong little kids.
Yeah. The biggest new name is Camry, Camreigh. So the Reigh is replacing RY in the re world. Audrey might be now Reigh.
And why wouldn't you want to do this? So
I don't know.
Everything that they ever do could be misspelled because you're a jackass.
DJ Khalid, he named his kid Assad. Changed the way it was spelled from a traditional way.
It was Assad before.
That's now it's the number 2 name. It's a new. So that give you an idea. But there are thousands of these.
Best.
These are not the best ones. Those were the most popular.
Right.
So popular means that it doesn't sound nearly as bad as the others in my mind. Like it gets pretty messed up. Like sometimes maybe just go tried and true on traditional names. If you're not. You know what? Name your kid whatever you want, but man, just know that it's like you always say, man. It can wreck your life.
It's just this. You make this decision, but your kid has to live with it. If you feel that strongly about a stupid name, right, and you got to know if it's stupid, or maybe you don't have real friends, whatever it is, but I would say you legally change your name to that dumb-ass pile of ass, and you deal with it.
That's right. Profile this coming up. We'll drink a toast with a shot of the day, and today we're going to talk about what you accomplished, what you got done, be it drunk, high, or hungover. We'll start with this one as it comes from ESPN.com, and the story is about retired quarterback Brett Favre. And he says he made 3 trips to rehab centers during his Hall of Fame career to fight his dependence on painkillers and alcohol. He's 48 years old. He was speaking to Sports Illustrated, and he said that he took as many as 14 Vicodin at one time during the 1995 season in Green Bay. Vicodin, that's an upper? Is that a downer or is that an upper? I think I'm
It's an opiate.
So you're just going, you don't, so really, so it's like.
You feel nothing, it would be my guess.
Okay. 14, so you would take a Vicodin to chill on the airplane.
Well, I mean, obviously, he's a football player, so he got it for pain.
Oh,
He
that's
got
what
it for
that's
pain,
what all
right.
opiates
Okay,
are.
all right, so he's just really hopped up on painkillers.
Yeah.
All right.
Not because he was in pain all the time. Once he got hooked, he was hooked. I mean, that's the whole problem with it. You know?
Okay, well, this was during the 1995 season in Green Bay.
Great
Favre
season.
won the first of his 3 consecutive Most Valuable Player awards that season.
Drugs!
It's really amazing, he says, as I think back how well I played that year. That was an MVP year for me, but that year, when I woke up in the morning, my first thought was, I got to get more pills. Favre said his issues with pills caused him to spend 28 days at a center in Louisiana in the early 90s. Favre also said he spent 28 days in a rehab strictly for drinking in 98. Story also mentions a previously reported 72-day stint at a Kansas City rehab center in the mid-90s to get off Vicodin. He says, when I drank to excess. So when I went in the second time to this place in Kansas, I remember vividly fighting them in there. They said drinking was the gateway drug for me. They were right. Absolutely right. But I wouldn't admit it then. I will only never forget one of the nurses. I had it all figured out. I fought with this nurse all of the time. I would not admit the drinking problem was a problem. At the end, she said, you'll be back. And I was back. In 1998, guess who was waiting there when I walked in? That same nurse. The Packers did decline comment. The front office, according to this article from ESPN and coaching staff, has turned over several times. Turned over. I guess they've had a lot of turnover.
What are they going to say about it?
Well,
He's a grown-ass man. He got high.
Right, exactly.
He won MVP and he won us a Super Bowl. Cool. Keep doing drugs. We did really, really well when he was high. What do you think we're going to say about it?
I don't think Giants fans are too pissed off about the Barry Bonds years.
Or New York Giants about Lawrence Taylor.
When they could go to the game and watch, balls flying out of the park all the time. And,
if you had that big of a problem, you wouldn't go ever see a band live.
I don't know, but the Cubs ever say anything about Sammy Sosa?
No. What are you going to say?
You wouldn't go see a movie. You wouldn't watch half the television shows out there if you had a problem.
You wouldn't let your kids play with a product.
What are those leagues going to, like... Right, like everybody in baseball basically was juicing. All the football players were popping pills like crazy.
But here's the thing, all right? So, and everyone worries about it in sports. But I'm like, okay, well, the musicians, you have to know what's happening in the music world, right? I would assume that most people understand what's happening in Hollywood. And all of that said, as an adult, when I was growing up, teachers were always teachers. And the thing about a teacher is, even if they were a teacher at a different school, but you met them somewhere, you still had a certain level of respect because they're teachers. Fast forward, I'm an adult. Some friends of mine, people I know, are actually teachers. And we've done drugs together, and we drink together. And I understand it doesn't matter your profession. I knew a guy, I almost said the state, a guy that was a state senator from a state I did not live in, but he had lived where I lived previously. He was on his way to Washington, D.C. He calls me. We're in the back of his government-funded limo smoking weed because I know he's going to go down there and vote against the legalization of weed. This is in the 90s at this point, so there was no chance. And even when I asked him, like, man, we've smoked tough since I've known you. You clearly have not stopped. We're sitting in the back of your limo getting high. You're a goddamn senator, and you're going to vote against it. He said, look, man, it's just this easy. One, it's easy to get. So I'm not worried. It's not going away. And two, it's political suicide at that time to say, hey, let's even take the time to research it. So it doesn't matter the profession. Trust me. People worry about it in sports, but whatever profession you're in, there's a lot of high drunk pill papa mofos around you. I mean, it's a guarantee.
I'll tell you what, man. I have.
You would not ever go out to eat if you have that big of a problem with drugs. Don't ever eat a dish that's been made for you because the head chef floating on cocaine, I promise you, and at least 85% of the staff who's actually there physically making your food, they're stoned, man. They're very, very high. And your wait staff, they're floating on coke, and they've been doing shots. Like, this is how the world works.
They have also created some of the best and unique foods that you probably eat and enjoy today.
Because they're high. Right. That's exactly it.
Exactly. So not only are they preparing it, but it was invented that way. So just the whole deal.
They're smoking in D.C. They're smoking at your restaurant. They're smoking in the spot. I mean, like, look, it's everywhere. What do we say? You go to the airport, and it's like, hey, man, do not travel with weed. But I'd watch all the pill poppers, soccer moms, get away with just drugging the hell out. And what's their excuse? Ooh, I don't like to fly, so I'm going to pop these 8 Xanax. I'm like, come on, man. You're popping Xanax because you want to be high in Xanax. I got no problem with that, but put it this way. I didn't eat that weed brownie because I got a problem with flying. I ate the weed brownie because I like weed. Just say it.
Right. I had one experience where, and I've done my share of drugs, but
have you?
I've smoked a lot of weed. I'm just trying to think as far as there were 2 instances.
One night, you've done a few people share drugs.
One night I did a shift on acid, and I was on the air, and that was incredibly difficult. It really was. Like, I was having a very difficult time. Eventually, because I didn't want to be there, and that was the problem with it. I just didn't want to be alone and be by myself and be at work.
Most people, that's their recommendation.
What is to do
drop
that?
acid, go to work.
Yeah, right. That's not a good idea, and it wasn't a good idea because I really wanted to get my stuff done, and it was just not a comfortable environment. But the one time where I kind of had that Doc Ellis moment was it was a morning, and my buddy picked me up, and we were going to meet a couple of my other friends, and we were driving to a golf course in Pennsylvania, and this golf course was up on top of a mountain range, on a ridge. The entire course was up on like the ridge of 3 mountains, and when we got up there, it was so foggy and cloudy at that point in time where it was a little bit early. We're waiting for somebody else. We had to wait for everything to burn off. So my buddy Nui, we're on the practice green, and Nui reaches into his bag and for whatever reason he goes, "Oh God, I forgot." And I'm like, "What do you got, Nui?" He's like, "Oh, I had this acid and I put it in my bag because I wanted to hide it, and I just remembered I put it in there." It's like he's like, "I totally forgot about it." I was like, "Oh, well, we should do that, we should do that right now. It's 9 a.m. and
we should do that.
This is good. We already got our carts. This is going to be a great idea." And so my other buddy Starcher and another friend come up, man, and we all decide, all right, we're all in. We're all doing this. And so we all drop acid. Now, the first couple of holes are very uneventful, and then all of a sudden, on like the 3rd hole, it just kicks in. I mean, it kicks in for all of us. And you've never seen a better round of golf from four hacks. Like, the putts were dropping from everywhere. Like, we were helping each other line up stuff. Everything was so easy to see. I shot the best round of golf that I've still to this day. I wish I knew the score because I know it would be the high water mark. I know I had like 5 birdies. I know I was par golf. Maybe I had 1. I shot at least no more than 5 over par, which is unheard of for me. I'm not that good of a golfer. Everyone shot the best game of golf of their life. And it was so intense. We were laughing our ass off. The balls would like all group together in the middle of the fairway. It was so weird. I mean, it was the weirdest.
I can't believe you did that.
It was the weirdest thing ever. But the focus level on it was like everyone was relaxed. The game just became so incredibly easy
because you see everything.
And it's one of the most difficult sports that you could ever play as far as it's just an ass kicker, man. But, I
don't know if anyone remember your story. It reminds me, it was a comment I heard in Baltimore, and it was when the movie The Matrix came out, all right? I don't know if you remember, but at the very end of the movie, spoiler alert, something happens to Keanu Reeves' character, and suddenly he sees the Matrix, basically his data, okay? So, like, everything turns to just green digits, and you realize in this moment, like, he's about to go kick ass because he can see everything. And I don't know how close this guy's sitting to me. He's clearly behind me, but you get to this point in the movie, and it goes to this where the entire Matrix, this thing that's been so confusing, he understands it because he sees the code. And you hear this guy in the background like, nigga on an acid trip. And I'm like, that dude has dropped acid because he's right. Your entire universe, when you were saying it, I'm like, oh, God, that's right. Because he's right. Like, in that moment, man, when you're tripping that hard, if you're focused, if you have focus, then everything in the universe makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just you understand what's going on and right. Your sucky ass at golf suddenly can go on a PGA tour.
Here's one of the 5 greatest things ever accomplished while high.
I was thinking about trying to hit a golf ball. I've struggled just to roll a joint one.
Oh, yeah. So this is from Cracked. This is from the fine folks at Cracked Magazine, cracked.com.
Anyone got a bong?
They've done, they have a bunch of books. They have a bunch of articles. And this comes from one of 18 articles that they put in a book. And it was the 5 greatest things ever accomplished while high. All right. So one of them is that.
Oh, come on, man. You got to give us some number 5.
Oh, yeah.
These are not small things.
Well, I was going to do them all, but I'll do.
When we revisit,
I'll give you a
pick
quick
a number.
I'll do 5. Here we go. And this is why I want to bring this up. Because it is Francis Crick who discovers DNA, which is a big deal if you didn't know. Thanks to LSD. And here's how this goes down. In 1953 in Cambridge, Crick burst through the front door of his home, shouting at his wife that he thought, what she thought was crazy gibberish about 2 spirals twisting in opposite directions from one another. Fortunately for him, his wife was a very prominent artist. And as he's going through this gibberish and all this stuff, she drew exactly what her husband was describing.
Okay.
Then the pair and a research partner named James Watson all went to a pub and just got S-faced. The wife had no idea what they were celebrating. Francis was always saying things like that. So he probably just should have drawn every word out because those twisty spirals went on to become one of the most reproduced drawings in the history of science, the first draft of the double helix structure of DNA that scientists today still describe as the Holy Grail, the bee's knees, whatever.
And it goes back farther than that,
Are you sure scientists call it the bee's knees?
They say bees on. This is correct, right? LSD. As they say, when not discovering the key to life and winning the Nobel Prize for it, Crick spent the 50s and 60s throwing all-nighters, famous for featuring that era's favorite party favors, LSD, and he also got naked with everybody. In a 2006 London paper, the Mail of Sunday reported that Crick had told many colleagues that he was definitely experimenting with a lot of LSD when he figured out the double helix structure. Now, Crick was also a fan of Aldous Huxley's The Doors of Perception, and this is where we get into what you were just saying, which is a study of the human mind, which was undertaken, like all studies, while driving around in L.A., seriously, on mescaline.
Right.
Huxley wrote that the sober mind has a series of filters on it that basically prevent abstract thought.
Mm-hmm.
So if you break down those drugs temporarily,
Gene Simmons,
you remove those filters, then maybe you see things, as you were saying, a little bit different.
You do. Everyone thinks that Gene Simmons is a douche. You might like his music, you might not. Everyone agrees that he's a prick, right? Yeah. But in the end, I don't smoke, I don't drink. Hey, brother, we can tell. We can tell because you got a closed mind and you're a jackass. You know what I mean? Like, you don't consider, and you don't have to agree with anything. That's wholly irrelevant. But the fact that you can't even empathize and consider other things, like, We know you don't
There's
drink
a lot
or
of people.
smoke.
There's a lot of people
because you're an idiot.
and typically those people don't have a sense of humor either.
Right, Gene Simmons.
There's a very telltale signs of people who just, if it flies over their head, like, oh boy, you're dealing with something here, man. Like this is anyway.
I think some of them are fine. I know some people that are pretty entertaining, but they are strictly like straight edge.
Sure.
And they don't really mention it a lot. They'll just like...
There's a difference.
Right. If you ask them about it, they'll just be like, no, I don't drink straight edge.
Right.
But you're right. Like, Gene Simmons is one of those people that seems like he's holier than thou about it.
He's like a vegan. I'm going to tell you before you ask.
Yeah. We'll give you one more here real quick. After winning the gold medal.
Wait, we have 4?
Oh, well,
you was only doing one.
Yeah,
that was the one. Okay, sorry.
I was doing it to tie into the discussion we're having. We can talk about all these things.
That was smooth.
Doc Ellis, we've got his story in there as far as throwing the no-hitter on acid. Apparently, Doc Ellis never pitched, and I didn't realize this until I started reading more into this, because they don't bring it up, but Doc Ellis was always effed up when he pitched. So he was either drunk, he was on all kinds of different stuff, and it started when he was in high school. He always pitched drunk. And then he... graduated to doing
high school.
Oh yeah,
what?
And then you go right from high school to the majors if you're good. So he goes straight from high school, just getting hammered, and he's good, so he can get as drunk as he wants and goes out there and fires seeds, and he's still going to the majors. Then he goes to the majors as like a 17, 18-year-old kid. Now he's an adult.
I just think outside of
kid,
golf
he's
or
just getting
frisbee. There's not many. Those are like the only two sports.
I don't know, man. I've been watching frisbee a lot on television because for some reason they've been airing
not that crazy frisbee.
Right. Okay,
just talking about a couple guys throwing a frizz.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys who are trying not to run.
He just would never
throw it to me.
Right,
He
no,
just said,
here,
look,
man.
He's like, I did everything. I just never would have done acid that day.
If he had known he was pitching.
He didn't know what day it was. He woke up in L.A. You have to remember that morning. He didn't know he was pitching until his girlfriend showed him the paper. The game was in San Diego. He still had to get to San Diego.
They drove 80 miles high.
Right, exactly. Showed up and pitched the game. He didn't even know. He wasn't even sure where he was. Drunk, high, or hungover, what did you get done? 844-999-OLA. Your call's coming up. You are listening to the Men's Room Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Men's Room with Miles and Thrill.
Oh, Ted, I know this is one of your favorites. So the legendary flight goes. Wade Boggs, reportedly, although he denies the number, but legend holds that the former Boston Red Sox star pounded how many beers over the course of a cross-country flight from New York to the West Coast?
If I remember, I think he had 50 Miller Lights.
64 is the supposed number. The number might have been inflated, but even if Boggs only made it to 45, he still managed the feat in about 16 hours, as they did have a layover, so they just kept drinking, and that's why the legend was what the legend was. If it had been a nonstop flight, it would have been different, but apparently they had to stop for something, mechanical issue, storm.
Grab more beer.
They just kept drinking, and that's what it was. By the time they got from one side to the other, they were absolutely hammered.
Boggs was so
Good
famous
for
for drinking light beer like that for a while, in like the Boston area and stuff, people were calling Miller Lite Boggses. Like, yeah, I'll take a couple boxes.
Drunk, high, or hungover, what did you get done? 844-999-OLA.
Hello, Sean. Welcome to the Men's Room.
Sean.
Hola.
Hello.
Hello.
Hola.
Hola. How you guys doing?
Good, Sean. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right. Surviving the heat.
Nice. So hot. So hot here. It's like the Arizona desert.
Yeah, very hot.
Come on.
Yeah. I don't know how you do it. So
I'm calling you from an oven, guys. I am trapped in an oven.
Surviving out here, bro.
Yeah, I mean, 72 degrees.
John, what did you get done?
So this is probably when I was like 22, 21. I was working at Burger King at the time, and I had a shift the next day, and I went to a friend's house, and we started drinking. So I was drinking 2 40 ounces of Old English, and then I was chugging his Jim Beam from the bottle. Next thing you know, I'm drunk, crawling around on the floor, get 2 hours of sleep, and I have to go to work the next morning. And I'm hungover.
Are you hungover or are you still drunk?
I was both.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Probably still drunk. And as soon as I walked in, my manager looked at me and said, "Dude, you look messed up." So I didn't go home. I stayed, worked my whole shift, drunk at the front counter, taking orders for Burger King.
Okay.
You know what, though? I'll be honest with you, man. If I'm rolling into Burger King and the person that looks drunk, I don't care, and I get it.
Right.
Because I would think, you know what, man, I would be too. I wouldn't want to talk to me in the goddamn morning. Like, absolutely, I'd be hammered.
Yeah. When we flew out here for a job interview, we hadn't been out of town in a while. We had been working a lot, and we get this opportunity to fly across the country. This is pretty exciting. We don't have really any money, but we're going to get.
We didn't have any money.
We're still going to get hammered. Because it didn't matter. We still didn't have any money all the time, but we still figured out a way to get hammered. And we came out here, and we were pretty well hammered over the entire course of being here.
Sure, including the job interview itself.
Yeah, and we thought that was probably a bad idea. When we got back on the plane, we were like, man, how did we do? And
no, you said, do you think we blew it? I mean, look, we weren't like a little bit drunk at the job interview. We were exceptionally smashed at the job interview, but as we're flying back, Miles says, man, you think we blew it? I was like, oh, yeah. I have no doubt. Like, there's no chance we get this job.
Yeah.
There is zero chance we get this job because, in granted, retrospect, it was about 18 hours, but, like, man, probably shouldn't go to a job interview, like, effed up.
Oh, man, the worst part of the thing this was the worst thing. So it is I want to say it's the morning before we're supposed to fly out. And we had gone out the night before. We had either gone to an NFL game. I can't remember what the series of events was. We were out way too late. We got way too hammered. We get up in the morning, but we're supposed to have a meeting with the program director and the general manager of the radio station, who we had not met yet. We go to this very nice, very fancy seafood restaurant. I want to say this is a Sunday brunch type thing going down.
It was.
And I decide, in my infinite wisdom, to order the seafood chowder. Now,
I even tried to explain, hey, man. Don't do it.
I don't know why I did this, but you know why? I'll tell you why.
You're
because
an idiot.
It's you. It's seafood chowder. I love chowder. I love seafood. I want some
me
seafood
too,
chowder. Right.
but not that day.
Oh boy, but no, this seafood
Repeat
chowder.
this story with chili dog.
It was very, very rubbery. And I think Steve could hear.
I could hear
the clams like grinding together in my teeth, like.
And I started getting the mouth sweats,
It was basically like.
And I'm like, you can't.
It was almost
puke.
like I had the rubber band soup. You know what I mean? Like
I can't puke at this table.
Oh man, like the little calamari legs, like. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up on this woman. She just met me.
And guess what? They hired her.
I'm all clammy.
I mean, I can't explain
My hands
it,
are clammy. I didn't even want to shake anybody's hands. I'm sweating. I hadn't taken a solid one in like 2 days, man. It's all upside down. Horrible. Feeling horrible.
And that's how you interview, kids.
Hola! The shenanigans continue on the Men's Room Radio Network.